Hello and welcome to the second tier. I'm Ryan Dilks. I'm joined by Justin Peach, and we've got some breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's right. Steve Cooper is leaving Swansea. News which has completely caught me off guard. But according to the Daily Telegraph's John Percy, he's going to be leaving the club in the coming days via mutual termination. Justin, as I say, this has caught me completely off guard. What are your thoughts?
I'm surprised, but I'm not that surprised. I think it's the timing that is the main thing for me. If it was going to happen, it should have been quite soon after the Championship playoff final. So yeah, surprised that it's come now, but not surprised that he's left in the end.
Yeah, I get what you mean. He's had speculation hanging over his head pretty much all summer, ever since the end of that playoff final. And of course, he's been linked with West Brom, Fulham, Palace. He's constantly being linked with every single job. And the fact that he's gone now, just over 2 weeks before the start of the season, when he had all these opportunities before, is just incredibly bizarre. But I mean, what happens now? Where does that leave Swansea heading into the new season?
Are they in a predicament? I think they are. I think there's this lack of investment that has contributed to Steve Cooper leaving Swansea. There's a thin playing squad. The lack of replacements is another issue for the loan players leaving, although I imagine they've done quite late in a window anyway. So yeah, it's terrible timing. You're 2.5 weeks into a pre-season regime, getting in your tactics, your style of play, getting everything drilled into the players very early on, and as you said, just over 2.5 weeks till the season starts, you're leaving. It's just bizarre, and as you say, it leaves Swansea in a weird situation that not many clubs tend to come out the other end of very well.
No, it's also interesting to point out that Steve Cooper just, I think yesterday or the day before, was just brushing off speculation that he might still be leaving the club. He says he's still working as hard as ever to try and get the squad ready for the new season. But here they are now. As you say, it's a thin squad. They haven't replaced the likes of Andre Ayew and the loan players who have gone. And it looks much weaker than it was at the end of last season. So in that way, if that is the reason why Steve Cooper's left, I can't blame him. He's had to deal with very small budgets in pretty much every transfer window he's had over the past summer, past 3 summers that he's been in. And yeah, I can't blame him leaving if that is why he has left.
Well, part of I've read the reports, and one of the main contributions to him leaving is, well, firstly, there's a lack of relationship with the CEO, which never helps. That boardroom level relationship not being there, they're always going to run into arguments, I imagine, or disagreement, shall we say, and also a failure to bring in a number 9 last January. I think I read that Steve Cooper really wanted Cauley Woodrow, and we know how effective he is in how Barnsley play. He's not prolific. He doesn't score 20 goals, but he does a lot around the pitch. And I think that would have helped Swansea in the final third. No end. He's a clinical player as well. And he's a leader. And that, as I say, that would have helped Swansea a hell of a lot. And yeah, okay, Steve Cooper had to play, I wouldn't say negative tactics, but he had to be a little bit more conservative towards the end of the season. But he had pretty much the same starting 11 every week. There wasn't a lot of depth there. I can't blame him for having to play that way. It got results. I can only imagine, and I think some Swansea fans might be thinking the same thing, just how good this team could have been under Steve Cooper had he have been backed, essentially.
Oh, massively, massively. You're talking about one of the best managers at Championship level that we've seen consistently over the past few seasons. He's managed to get this squad, which hasn't had much money spent on it, and he's managed to get it into the playoffs twice in 2 seasons. He's done remarkably well. And in that time, he's also developed the likes of Ollie McBurney, Joe Rodon, Connor Roberts, these players who have come through the academy system or joined the club when they were very young and made them into essentially Premier League players. And it's a massive blow for Swansea, a massive, massive blow. And now, kind of carrying on from what I was just saying a second ago, they're in a situation now where the squad's significantly weaker. Still no money is being put towards making it any better. Lost one of the most talented managers in the division. Makes you wonder, what's the point in this season? Because I can't see them accomplishing anything significant like they have done over the past 2 seasons. And now, it's, as a Swansea fan, I imagine you're looking down instead of up.
You're quite right. Just to correct you as well, before Swansea fans come after us, I think McBurney was part of the Graham Potter legacy. Okay. But you're on the right lines in terms of making these players into Premier League players, the likes of Joe Rodon. As you say, Matt Grimes has come on in leaps and bounds. Connor Roberts has been ridiculous. He was very good for Wales at the Euros as well. So he has turned these players not around, but he's taken him to another level. And I think probably after playing on him, they're going to be tactically better as well, because they've had to play a couple of different systems, quite complex systems, the 3-5-2 that they played as well. But as you say, it just leaves them in a conundrum that it's very difficult to come out of. We think about loan players that left. Freddie Woodman obviously was on loan for 2 seasons. At no point did they bring in a keeper. They have Stephen Bender, but is he good enough to be at a first team level in the Championship? Jury's out. Not seen too much of him, but there's too many question marks. And I think Swansea, they're taking 2 backward steps to try and go forwards at this point. The next appointment is really important, because it's got to be a progressive appointment. It's got to be an appointment like the Graham Potter appointment, like Steve Cooper. It's got to be of the similar guilt to that, because they can't go backwards at this stage. Otherwise, they risk all the hard work that Graham Potter and Steve Cooper have put in place.
And to be fair to Swansea, I have no doubt that they will bring in another progressive manager, because the last 2 have been fantastic. And to be fair, over the past 10 years or so, they haven't had too many bad appointments. Sure, there have been a couple which ownership hasn't appointed a couple of bad managers. But apart from that, more often than not, they've been positive ones. So I imagine they can bring in someone, but it's very close to the season and it's not ideal prep heading into the first game of the season. From a Steve Cooper perspective, then finally, where does he go now? As we say, he had so many job offers earlier in the season, either wasn't offered them or didn't take them up, and now he's a hot agent on the market, isn't he?
But it's a terrible time to be out of work, because other than obviously Swansea making this decision, there aren't going to be many clubs who are going to be managerless for the next 6 weeks. You're looking at September time when teams start to pull the trigger, and even then, it's become it's become much rarer, hasn't it? I guess because of COVID and belt tightening and whatnot. You don't want to pay manager compensation too often, but yeah, I imagine if Steve Cooper was a free agent 6 or 7 weeks ago, there might have been a few more suitors. I think Palace might have gone for him. I think Fulham might have even gone for him. Those were the 2 clubs that were linked with him a lot throughout the summer. That was speculation anyway. So I mean, his stock's going to be very high. He's got a 45% win percentage at Swansea, 2 top 6 finishes, tactically very good, and there's still uncharted territory in what he can get out of a squad if he's well backed.
Well, you say managers don't tend to get sacked this early in the season. May I remind you, Forest sacked the manager, sacked Sabi Lamouchi 4 games into last season, and then Gerhard Struber left after 5 or 6 games at the start of last season. So you never know.
Can happen.
It can happen. And if you're talking about bad times to be sacked, then I mean, the weather's quite nice. Go on holiday somewhere. Why not?
Good point.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up. Just in a Steve Cooper leaving Swansea. Unbelievable, really. Completely caught us off guard, and we'll keep you up to date when we have any more news on who's going to be potentially replacing him, where Steve Cooper's heading next. We'll be all over it, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Second Tier. So make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll be back again very soon.